Hey, brand builders, ready to take your brand to the next level? I'm Dana Ammons, and welcome to the Brand Blueprint. Welcome again to another exciting episode of the Brand Blueprint, where we break down how founders are actually building, scaling, and surviving brands in real time. Not the Instagram version or the Facebook version, but the real life version. And today I have a fantastic founder joining us as a part of our Seed Spot founder interview series, where we spotlight founders who are moving from idea to shelf with products built around real customer pain points. And this is a real customer pain point in a literal sense that I think we're going to love discussing today. My guest is Pooja Bansal. She is the founder of Swift Running, a performance running footwear brand built on a simple belief. Finding the right running shoes should not be difficult, and high quality performance should not feel like it costs you a luxury amount of money. Swift is going after a big, emotional, everyday problem. Runners who want comfort, support, stability, and speed without paying race day super shoe prices just to train, walk, jog, and stay healthy. The brand's collection spans daily trainers, versatile performance trainers, recovery trainers, and carbon plate tempo trainers, all tied to a larger push around accessible performance. And that's something that we really love on this podcast is accessibility. So today we are going to talk about how Pooja is building one of the most competitive or building in one of the most competitive categories in the consumer products section. And that's how you position performance technology for everyday runners and what it takes to scale a footwear brand from online proof into broader distribution. Pooja, welcome to the Brand Blueprint. I am so excited to finally have you on the show today.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast this morning. This is such a beautiful start of my Monday morning.
No, this is a great way to start the Monday. And I want to say we're so happy to have you. And speaking of starting things off right, one of the things that we always do is we start off our interviews with our rapid fire question and answer segment. Now, this is not meant to be a catch you up in a trick question. This is just the opportunity for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Let's jump in. So first question I always ask every founder, coffee or tea?
Coffee for sure.
Coffee for sure. Okay. Are you a specific brand person? Do you make it at home? Do you have a certain ritual that you go through? Or are you just in the drive-through at Starbucks at 6 a.m.?
I'm a Starbucks girl, but recently I started loving my blue bottle as well.
Okay. Okay. I love this. All right. Let's go into what you actually do from a business standpoint. Let's talk running. So road miles or treadmill miles, which one would you say is probably the most that you've accumulated while running?
Road miles.
Road miles. Yeah. Which one do you prefer more, road miles or treadmill miles?
Road miles.
All right. One word your friends would use to describe you as a founder.
Fun.
Fun is a good one for a person who is in a fun category. Give me one running shoe myth that you want to put to bed, you want to kill right now. One myth that you always hear as you engage consumers about running shoes that people just don't fully understand or don't get that you want to just completely dispel now.
You spend more money and you will buy performance. That is the biggest myth from runners of all level.
Yep.
And I'm here to break that with Swift Running.
I love it. Hey, let me be honest. I am probably one of those people who are a victim of that concept, which I think a lot of us get as kids, right? I grew up poor and in a disadvantaged neighborhood where we didn't have a lot of resources. And so shoes in particular were one of those prized possessions that you always felt like the more money you spent, the more performance, so to speak, you would get, right? I was of the age and remember when Jordans were first launched. And a lot of people talk about the styles of Jordan tennis shoes, but when they were first launched, that wasn't why most of us wanted them as kids. We wanted them because we thought Michael Jordan combined with Nike would give us some extra skill sets on the court, but maybe give us an extra inch or two in terms of our leap, and we'd be able to dunk like him, right? So I think there is this myth that, hey, if I go out and pay more for this shoe or for this performance product, I'm going to actually perform better, and definitely not the case. So I love that.
And I always say that you are the runner. Your shoe is just a tool. You need a
Ah,
light as a gear, but you are the runner. Remember that.
I love that. I love that. That is a very different way of thinking about how you use and how you engage the product. What would you say in terms of if you're thinking about Swift and your next big brand activation, what dream race, run club, or event would you want to place Swift in as a participant? If you could just name any event out there, your dream activation for Swift, what would it be?
I recently met my dream. That was my first dream when we
Yeah.
did our Boston activation. So
All
we
right.
were part of Boston Activation 2026.
Nice. And so Boston activation included what? What all was part of your activation?
So we were at a Newbury Street. We were five women founders who collectively get a place at Newbury Street, very close to our start and finish line. And that's where we had all the runners stopping by at Brand House Boston, which was name of our activation, try on the shoes. And some of
Wow.
our athletes actually ran Boston in our tempo trainer.
Really? So you actually had actual runners complete the Boston Marathon in the tempo trainers?
Sub 3 marathoners. Yes.
Sub 3 marathoners.
Yes.
Wow. And for those of us in the audience who don't understand marathoning, sub 3 is top notch running. That is elite level marathon running. So that tells you the performance level of this tennis shoe. I cannot wait to get into the conversation about this shoe. All right, let's talk a little bit more about you, and then we're going to shift over into the main interview. We talked about the running myth that you wanted to kind of put to bed. I want to also ask you if you had your choice of endorsers, a celebrity or sports or athlete or otherwise, who would your dream endorsement be for Swift running shoes?
It's a very interesting question. And believe me, I don't want to drop a name here.
Yep.
And there is a reason to that because a lot of big brands in the industry have been focused on one elite name. And then they want all their athletes and customers to
To
look
follow.
at that person, see them as a role model. And that's where Swift running is different.
Yep.
You, everyday runner, is my role model. You are my celebrity. I am celebrating your 5K, 10K, half marathon run. So I don't need one person's face. I need everybody. So
I love
when I
that.
see a community of people running in my Swift pairs, that's what my endorsement is. That's
That's
where
a
I see.
Hey, that's a great answer. And we find a very affordable answer here on the brand blueprint, which for the audience, what Pooja just basically said is you are her lead endorser and product performer because she wants this product to be accessible for everybody and doesn't want it to just be viewed as a narrowly used and fit product for elite athletes or for celebrities. So I love that approach. I love that. Now, thinking about the extension of your brand performance in 2026, if you looked at some of the key vectors in market and product execution, whether that's price, product, place, or promotion, which one of those P's wins for Swift in 2026?
Performance.
Performance.
Yep.
And tell me a little bit more why.
The performance is where everyday runner or everyday walker jogger is seeing the setback. They want to perform, but then they are stick with the basic trainers where they are seeing the barrier that this is the maximum I can do. So I always say technology exists in the market, but it's not existing in everyday runner's hand. You open their closet, you will just see some over the counter basic trainers, and that's where the performance comes into picture. So we want Swift running to have that P performance aligned with the price so you can afford that performance in this price. So
I love it.
performance is always the key of Swift running.
I love that. So let's go from there and wrap this up and finish this sentence for me. Every runner deserves what?
Performance.
Performance. Excellent answer. Way to end our rapid fire question and answer segment. Now let's jump into the main part of the interview. Are you ready to get it?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get started. Look, Pooja, I am always fascinated by founders like yourself who really and truly tackle innovation in these massively competitive categories. But it starts always, and it usually I find starts with this passion that originated from a personal journey. So I want you to walk our audience through your personal running journey. Were you always a runner? Did you just pick up running as a part of a lifestyle choice or a health choice? And what was it that you experienced that eventually led you to think about this relationship between shoe performance and price?
And it's a very interesting question because a lot of people, when they see me as a founder of Swift Running, there is a mindset behind us that we assume that person is an elite runner. And
Mhm.
that's where I want to break that whole myth. No, I started my journey as a recreational runner. In fact, when I was in my early 20s, I never ran in track or cross country. I just felt like running is not my thing. And then suddenly life hit, and in my 30s, I'm a mom, and I feel like running is my way of spending time with myself. It became my me time. I will just put my AirPods on and I will go out for running. And that's how my running journey started. Because again, it was in 30s and I was just keep putting more and more miles up and up. Eventually, without much understanding of what is the right fit looks like for me, because as a recreational runner you always think whatever the sneaker you have in your closet is a perfect fit for you, and you put that on and you can go out. And I start feeling pain in my right knee, and personally in my back of my mind I thought, oh, I started this in mid late 30s and maybe it's just my body is not made for running, because we as a people we always have that mindset that we trust brands more than ourselves. So if you think about, I was trusting my footwear, but I was like, oh, it's maybe my problem, it's my knee problem, my body issues, right? And put the brace on and I went again for running, but things weren't getting better. And that's where in my neighborhood I had other women runners, and some of them they were like, no, I think you need to get fitted. And that's when I went to a specialty running store, and that opened my eyes. I looked at the price points, I looked at the technology, I start kind of investigating what is in each and every shoe, how this versus this, how this is better than this, and why the price points are 200, 250, 300. What's this all about? And again, analytical mind of me, I went there, then I went to different other stores, then I came back home with a couple of pairs. Of course, I spent a lot of money, but then in back of my mind, I was thinking, why? Why are we spending so much money? Why performance has to be this expensive? And why one pair is not enough for my journey? Why do I have to do rotation? I just keep going and going. I start doing more research and get into running as my passion, and it keeps on piling up. And that's where my footwear journey started. More and more depth I went into, and then I, from running a recreational runner, I became a running coach, and I saw that this is just not my problem. I start seeing the community around me who are compromising on their footwear. They are okay buying one pair of a super shoe, but then they are hiding that in the closet, but then keep on grinding on their basic non-tech footwear, and then you will see the balance. That's where injury happens, and that's why a lot of people get into that problem that, okay, we need to make sure that we are training in the right pair.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend a lot, and that's how my running journey started, and I end up building Swift Running.
It's an amazing story because you are a example of what I call a devoted consumer. You didn't just pursue running as a hobby or as a passion. You eventually became a coach. And then in coaching, you essentially got consumer direct validation because you could see that it wasn't just you that was experiencing this particular discomfort or pain point. And that's one of the things we talk a lot about on the brand blueprint as a real discovery signal, right? That sometimes potential founders miss. You identify something that you don't like or you don't feel is satisfactory for you as a consumer. And then you go out and you realize by talking to other people, observing other people, in your case, coaching other runners, that this was a real problem. It wasn't just Pooja. It wasn't just your family. It wasn't just your neighborhood, right? And so once you realized and validated it was a real problem, you knew you wanted to tackle it and fix it. How did you jump from this idea in your head to, okay, let me go out and actually create my own running shoe?
A lot of time, when somebody asks me this question, I always say nothing happened overnight. It was a year long journey, like long journey. We started, this whole idea started popping up in our head during pandemic, because that's when we start seeing more and more people take little over than a hobby. People stop traveling that much. Now
Mhm.
they see the importance of fitness and wellness in their own life. And a lot of these things are, people get involved in group sessions, group sports, but running is something you just get out of your house and do it. You don't have to find your a lot of companions in this type of sport. So
Yep.
that's when our journey started, and we start thinking about, okay, let's see how we can fill fill this particular gap, right? There's a lot of brands in the market, but it looks like it goes to the same question you asked me, right? Which celebrity role model do you see for your brand? Because every other brand is looking at that same one elite runner as their core person. And that's why I think the whole community initiative is missing, where community needs that gap to be filled and nobody's just looking at it. And for us, that was our starting point. We looked at it and we saw it's over 50 million runners in the United States who are looking to get into jogging, running, elite, sub elite runners. And that's where we need to fill this gap. Out of those 50 million, less than 0.1% are actually categorized themselves as a elite or sub elite. So what we
Wow.
are seeing is vast majority of those runners are actually could not justify most of the time spending $250 on a carbon plated technology. So what
Hmm.
we are bringing is, we are bringing that technology at a price point where everyday runners can actually afford it. So
I
yeah.
love it. And one Pusha, one thing I want to demystify for people who may be listening, because you are really immersed in the category and really educated, not just on your product, but on running shoes in general. I understand the technology. I'm actually not a runner. I am flat foot and bow legged. And so all of my life, I've had shin splints from running. And so I'm an avid biker because of my inability to really run pain free. But I do know that had I had access to carbon plate technology as a child, I probably would have had a different experience as a runner. Can you briefly explain why that technology in particular has been so revolutionary for runners and for runner comfort?
Let me start there. Right now, we see a lot of trend going on the big cushion, heavy cushion under your foot.
Man,
And
huge. These all these brands, they look like you're running on clouds of foam.
yes, yes, absolutely. And that's where, as a runner and even as an active people, most of us know that having that ultra soft surface under your foot is not always good. In
Yeah,
fact, we start seeing problems like pronations and
yeah,
instability in the running form and knee pain, right? Things doesn't happen overnight or within 2 days of running into those shoes, but over time, as you are putting more miles and miles in these shoes, you will start feeling all those aches and pains. And then again, going back to my point earlier, you will start trusting your footwear over your own body, right?
yep,
And that's why we want people to understand that we need to have an earthy experience. But I'm not talking about a zero drop, because if you realize that's not made for everyone. I know it's becoming a trend as well, but it's not, everybody is unique. And that's where you need to make sure that for masses, you need the good, moderate to high drop to make sure that you are not hurting your calves and getting all those shin splint issues. Coming back to carbon plate. So what carbon plate does is it's actually propelling you forward. So what you
hmm,
are, with the right combination of a rocker design and carbon plate, it's optimizing your energy return. So you're not sinking in the cushion and your
hmm.
stride doesn't have to pull yourself forward. You
Hmm.
waste a lot of energy with every step you take. What carbon plate is doing is just propelling you forward. It's a very simple science. It's the way how we see is, yes, it's rigid, it's giving you less flexibility, and that's
Yep.
why this technology is called as a race day technology.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I will go a little bit deeper into why, what's the difference between race day technology and having that technology in a trainer. But in short, about this carbon technology, if you go to a podiatrist, a lot of time they recommend having a plate under your foot, because what they are trying to ask you is keep your ankle and knee straight. Keep that straight by putting a plate in your extra cushion shoes so you don't
Yep.
get sink in and you don't roll inwards or outwards in your shoe.
Man, I love that explanation. And I love the fact that we are finally at a place in just broad consumer consumption of products like footwear that people are finally educating themselves on things that, frankly, you and I both know can translate to long term, both foot, ankle, and knee and lower body problems. I can testify to this. I come from a family that is full of athletes and also has, from a genetic standpoint, unfortunately dealt with joint issues the entirety of our family. My grandmother had three hip replacements, sorry, multiple hip surgeries,
Wow.
three hip replacements, one knee replacement. My father, before he passed, needed a knee replacement and just resisted it. And a lot of it, I think, is because of the natural bow in our legs, combined with being flat footed and combined with not having access to proper footwear. And my dad was a high performing athlete. He played for the University of Nebraska in the 70s. He tore his ACL his second year in college. He never really got it repaired correctly. So he went through life wearing essentially tennis shoes that we look back at today now and we go, are you kidding me? You guys ran up and down the court in Chuck Taylors and like these canvas tennis shoes with no support, to your point, no carbon plate. Their feet and their legs were doing all the work. And therefore, you saw so many more injuries back then and so many more career ending injuries. So I do think that the knowledge of the footwear technology available to consumers today hopefully can help save a lot of future lower body injuries. And so that brings up another question, Pooja, which is footwear is a very trustworthy category. You are basically asking consumers to trust your brand with their help, body from mile after mile that they run. How did you think about trust before you started asking consumers to try out a new brand? And were there any particular areas of your marketing or your communication that you wanted to make sure you covered to build that trust with the consumer?
Absolutely. So there are two parts of this question. So the very big part for us is our grassroots marketing efforts. And I always say it's like before I convince a person 50 miles away from me, I need to convince that my product is good in my backyard around me. So what we started this company, like we launched our first model in November 2024. So we are what, little over a year old company
Yep.
at this point. And what our biggest, I would say, I don't know, weapon is not a right word, but I would say the biggest anchor is that we are going in every single 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon events in our community, and we are showing up, we are bringing our product with us, and very old fashioned way, put all my sneakers in my car and drive to each and every event, put a tent out there and have people touch, feel, try my product before I'm asking them to commit to a new brand. And more importantly, bringing those demo shoes so they can put them up and then go for a run. So now what I'm asking them is, don't just trust my words, don't just look at my fancy banner, but what you can do is put the shoe on, go for a ride, and come back and tell me how do you feel. So
Yep.
that is the biggest piece for us, getting trust from our local community.
Letting people test drive it. I love it. And let's get practical and talk a little bit about the product line. I am fascinated by the line. I love the naming convention of the line, but I want you to explain and walk our consumers and our listeners through, your potential consumers, our listeners, through each of the line and what and who would be a right fit for each of those collections. You have a APUS, you have a HORUS, you have a CELER, and you have an EQUUS. And I hope I'm pronouncing those all correctly. Talk a little bit about the difference in your current lineup. What makes sense for who, and how did you go into designing them?
So they cover all these four model cover a full training rotation for any runner. So technically, if you are a runner and you are prepping to meet your PR in your next run, you need all four for different parts of your training cycle. But we can start from one or two models, right?
Yeah.
So HORUS and APUS, they both are our daily trainers. They are made to make sure that you don't have to think much. You are out there for your daily training. You are going for your next 10K, 10 miler, and you need a pair to put on, and you're going to be out there. All of our shoes are, I usually say that my empty coffee cup is heavier than some of my peers, and
Wow.
there's a reason.
Yeah.
And again, I when people talk to me, I while they are still talking, I'll pick a shoe and I put it on their hand so they can feel it when I'm talking. I want them to feel the real
Yeah.
knowledge in there. Horus and Apus, perfect for short to long distance training cycles. On the other hand, our seller is a little bit more for comfort trainers, like easy
Mhm.
miles. Nobody is ready to kill 8 minute or not or 9 minute a mile. There are people who are seeing themselves see 10 minute a mile, but also if they are looking to get a little bit extra cushioning, because our focus when we were building these trainers was performance with a combination of minimal cushioning. We did
Yeah.
not want you to put a lot of cushioning if it's not required. But that doesn't mean it's not required for everyone. I always say every foot is different, every body is unique. So if you are looking for a plated experience, but you are not fully ready for a full carbon experience and you need extra cushioning, then go for Cellar. Cellar model is great for brisk walking, jogging,
Mm.
comfort days. Then it comes our fourth model, which is Aqua, and that's
Mm.
our tempo trainer. The biggest difference between Aquas and other three models is other three models have a hybrid midfoot carbon plate. So it's a hybrid with carbon and TPU. So you are getting the plated experience, but making sure that it's not that rigid because you are using a trainer. You want your body to get trained with a hybrid experience and more flexibility before you go to more rigid and pure carbon experience. Yeah.
That's expansive. You've got almost every need, to your point, across your running phases covered in the collection, which means a wide range of people can wear and should wear your various trainers. So, thinking about that, how did you go into fit? You got narrow feet, regular feet, wide feet. As I mentioned, I'm flat footed. My feet don't necessarily fit wide shoes, but they don't also do well in narrow shoes. And there are certain runners over the years that I won't name any brand names, but there are certain profile types that I don't even look at anymore because I know my feet won't fit those type designs. You focused on accessibility. And I know going into this, that had to be part of the thought process, but it also downstream, it creates a lot of additional SKUs, a lot of additional inventory. So talk to me a little bit about that whole thought process of accessibility and recognizing that you wanted to meet runners where they were, and you've already to support them in their various journeys. How did you approach making performance more accessible in terms of fit?
Fit has been a very distinct problem when it comes to footwear. And the reason why I said problem is because we all are unique, right? Our we have this toe big, that toe big, right? Our we need more room in our toe box and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But that's the beauty. It's a
Mm-hmm.
problem, but we have a solution to that as well. And that's where, as a runner, the biggest thing is all our shoes are designed in a way that they accommodate a runner. When you put extra miles, your toe starts swelling, and we made sure that even if we are calling them a regular toe box, they have enough room that after 5 miles when your toes are swollen it accommodates that. So that's why really
Oh,
has been very important for our shoes.
yeah.
However, when the model EQUUS, which is our tempo trainer, it's designed to keep it a little bit more structure around the toe, because now we want you to use a lace lock and make sure that you're picking up speed. So
Yeah.
that's where we kept it a little bit narrower than the other three models we have, because we don't want your toes to wiggle, because here you are picking up the speed. You are
Hmm.
not going to do tempo training every day. So there's
Hmm.
a balance. What you are doing in your daily trainer, you need more wiggle room. You're still picking up your speed, but with speed, comfort needs to be focused. Your long distance need to be focused. On the other hand, with EQUUS, speed is the only. If you want to meet your PR, that's the day you want to put that on and go. And our Boston athletes, which I was mentioning earlier, they were in EQUUS when they did their sub 3. So is do they need that for everyday training? Maybe
No.
they will pick another pair, but then there
Yeah.
are a balance. That's why they need a full rotation for both ends. And
Right.
to answer your inventory question, yes, when it comes to footwear, you need sizes. You need molds for every size.
Yeah.
And that's why footwear is a very interesting market, because whatever size you carry, there will be somebody who needs a different size. And you have to start somewhere. For right now, for men and women, we have 6 in each category, 6 in men and 6 in women sizes. And in men, we start from most common sizes, size from 9 to size 13, try to accommodate the masses in
Hmm.
here. In women, we have size 7 to size. So that's where we try to accommodate most of the women. Are they sufficient? Probably not, because I have so many customers who are asking me for size 14, or a lot of women asking me for size 6. And
Yep.
my answer is, we are a startup. We
Yep.
started this journey a little over a year ago, and we are not stopping by any means. Right. And we will be having more inventory depth as we are keep growing and scaling in our business.
I love that. And then that's trade-offs that you have to make as a founder when you are developing product early on. I'm sure there was trade-offs between the type of cushioning, the type of durability you were putting into the product that affected the overall price, and then obviously having more sizes available also. So those are definitely trade-offs that I think consumers should and will understand, to your point, as they fully engage the brand and get to know the brand better and know that the brand is a startup brand. So, talking a little bit about that in the consumer space, when runners compare Swift to legacy brands, where do you want Swift to feel familiar? And then where do you need Swift to be unmistakably different?
The best part to visualize Swift on a 4 quadrant space is a white space where you have lower prices and high tech. And believe me or not, I can visualize in my brain, and that space was always empty. We have lower price, higher price, but lower tech. We have a lot of daily trainers in that space. And
Mm-hmm.
I can name a couple of Hoka, Ons, and Saucony's, like all have different, and they're great shoes. No comparison. They are great shoes for someone who are not seeking performance, who are not
Correct.
seeking technology, right? They are great. But then if you go up, you have 2 different quadrants, right? One where are lower price, high tech. That's
Yeah.
where that white space was there, and I just couldn't find any comparison.
Yeah.
That's when I had to put all my Swift pairs, because on the right hand side, high price, high technology, you can get all race day. Like you can get Saucony Endorphin series, you can get Vaporfly, Alphafly, like you name it.
Yeah.
Anything above 200, 250, you will see a lot of them
Money.
having some type of either nylon plate
Yeah.
or full carbon plates, right?
Yeah.
Like depending on, of course, you don't want to train in a full plate, but the technology exists. You have options to try on. So that's why for me comparison gets very interesting. Am I comparing with a non-plated trainers, or am I
Right.
comparing myself with the super shoe? And I would say no, I'm a tech trainer, and that's what my own identity. I'm filling a space where nobody else was.
I love it. And it's a great acknowledgement of a white space that you intentionally set out to focus on. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, in this category, which is one of the toughest consumer categories out there, performance footwear, scaling in performance footwear is probably a lot different and looks a lot different than scaling in other categories. So when you talk scaling Swift running over the next 12 to 18 months, what does that look like?
So right now, our biggest revenue share is with our D2C market on our website, and we are also available on Amazon and couple other online channels. On the other hand, at least I would say 25 to 30% contributes to our a lot of mobile pop-ups, our
Mhm.
activations and different events, in-person events. And for 2026, what we are visualizing is our third strong channel, which will be a wholesale channel. Because the biggest problem is when people have aspect where they want to compare one foot of another pair, another brand, and then they want to compare it with Swift, either they have a choice to make that during our in-person events, which are not happening all the time, right? There are
Mhm.
certain areas where we are more active than others. But if we have a lot of specialty running stores or retail footwear stores carrying our Swift running product, that gives a whole different market, opens the door where they can try the fit before committing to the brand. So that is our upcoming focus. In fact, there is a local run store, specialty run store in Prince George County in Maryland who will be carrying our Swift running products in their shelves in the month of June. So that will be our first store carrying our products. So we are super excited to partner with them. And we want a lot many stores to carry Swift running products so our consumers or our potential consumers will have a choice to try them on. But on the other side, when we sell online, there is a whole option where we provide 30 days free guarantee, free return exchange guarantee. That way, people can actually trust a new brand. They can still try a fit. And if it's not a right fit, that's okay. They don't have to think about that they will lose money. We want to make sure that people will have a peace of mind when they are trying our brand.
I love that. And that definitely free shipping, allowing people the opportunity to return the product, it reduces the customer hesitation at purchase, right? Because they then don't have to necessarily have that anxiety that they are going to run into problems if they don't like the product and want to trade it out for a different size or want to return it completely. But it also obviously is a tough thing to manage for founders. So talk a little bit about, you're in a business where the D2C business side of the business, you do have to think more creatively about how you engage consumers because people usually want to try product on. And now you've added these features that allow people to return product. But how do you protect the business operationally from just this revolving door of returns, back and forth product, et cetera? Was that something you worried about going into this approach on D2C? Or is it something that you feel like isn't going to be an issue for you?
So the way how footwear market works is having these returns and exchanges is part of the business. And if anybody gets into, and even in my audience, if anybody gets into footwear industry, I think you need to understand the aspect of how these numbers work. What is the industry standard? Where you as a founder of footwear in business, where do you want to lie in that range? What is good for your business through it? Some of these specialty run stores have different policies where they let people more than 30 days to try exchange. But then what they are doing is whatever they are getting pairs, they are putting them on a high discount and then giving other people an option that if you want to have a slightly loved shoe. So that has been in the industry as well. However, as a brand, we have no expectations to do that. And that's where we want to make sure that people still have an option. And if once we get something like this back, what we do is we just use them as a demo runs, because as a brand we need a lot of demo shoes. Our demo shoes are in different parts of country right now. Some of them are in Florida. So it's just that's the way how we engage with run club. That's how we engage with community. So you just have to use that balancing act and make sure you understand the feedback you are getting from the customers on the sizing, on the fit. So you can adjust your sizes, you can adjust your fit, you can put more and more description about your product and sizes on your website. So people will have less of that worry when they are ordering. They can read that if one certain model is going half a size up, don't be scared. Mention that on the top. So people will have a choice to make. So
I
it's
love that, Pooja. You're giving our listeners a lot of great advice. And one of the things I want to double tap that you advised that I really want our listeners to take to heart is the reality that in a business like shoe wear and footwear, you're going to have to engage the customer with some form of product guarantee or return policy. Because to Pooja's point, it's part of the industry aspect and it's a consumer pinch point, right? People don't want to necessarily trust a product like we were talking about trust earlier. People don't want to trust a product that they can't try on and they can't touch and feel themselves. But what I think, Pooja, you said was so brilliant that a lot of founders miss is they go, oh, okay, I know I got to do it. I got to put up the return policy. I have to let people try our product. They do it and they don't collect any consumer data. And to your point, this is a great opportunity to listen to the consumer and listen to these running clubs actually give you fantastic feedback, I'm sure, about the product, about fit, to your point, giving you copy that you can put onto your website to better describe the product. So founders listening to this and potential founders, don't miss an opportunity when you're talking to a potential consumer, even if you gave them the product free or just to try out, that you are still getting valuable feedback that can help you continue to perfect your overall product and the delivery of your product. So I love that advice. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because in my research of your brand and my engagement of the brand in various sessions that we've had an opportunity to interact with in Seed Spot, I was just fascinated by the fact that you have somehow found a way to establish Swift as HSA and FSA eligible. And that's a really interesting unlock. Tell me a little bit about how you're thinking about that, both as a affordability strategy and as a customer education strategy. Talk a little bit about that.
So we partner with TrueMed. TrueMed is a platform that's where they have their experts to validate your product. They want to understand what your product is, what is the technology behind them, and how that technology can actually benefit a lot of people. So a lot of people does not fit in the category of, okay, I have an injury, but there are people who wants to prevent the injury. So there is a something more reactive. If you have an injury, don't buy Swift running. Go to your doctor or podiatrist and get the right recommendation. But then there is a whole set of people who want to prevent the injury, and that's where we fit right in. And that's where our product, our technology, carbon plated technology or a hybrid plated technology fit right in, which can actually accommodate that all the health concerns people have, that if I run these miles, how would that feel like, right? How can I make sure that my body and my body is responsive to my speed? So that's where our product fit right in. And also there is a whole benefit of tax benefit from using your HSA FSA account for your purposes.
I mean, I think, look, I'm no longer a part of the active HSA or FSA program, but I was for many years as part of my employment with Procter & Gamble and Colgate and all of those great companies. And I can remember strategizing at the beginning of election season how much money I was going to allocate to each account. And then at the end of every election season, I would be one of those people that unfortunately would never use or submit my receipts in a timely fashion to actually recover the funding I put for. So for those of you listening that have HSA and FSA accounts, here's a great opportunity for you to use it on a great product that I guarantee you most, if not all of you, are currently using, which is a pair of really good running shoes. So where would they find more information out about that, Pooja, and how to actually access your brand through their FSA and HSA accounts?
Anyone who can go to my website, running.com, on the homepage, if you scroll, after one fourth scrolling, you will see a whole banner with HSA, FSA, and how you can save through using that facility. You will click there. There's a whole page about learn more how to use that. In addition, when you are checking out a product, it will give you an option. You can pay through different mediums. And then the same thing is you can select the option to pay by HSA FSA account. Your application will go to TrueMed. They will ask you to fill out 4 or 5 questions. And for the most part, they're asking you, are you already injured? And if you are already injured, we want to make sure that you are seeking doctor's assistance. So that's why it's important for us that you can easily choose that option at your checkout.
I love that. Now, There's obviously a lot of internal work and management that you have to do to manage inventory, to make sure that you avoid the classic trap of either having too much inventory of sizes and SKUs that nobody wants, or running out of inventory of your
Mhm.
hero SKUs. How do you manage that, Pooja? And can you give advice to any of our founders on how to think about managing SKU complexity when you have different sizes, different styles for different runners? And in that, obviously, SKUs that people really prefer, and maybe SKUs that aren't selling as much. So how do you manage that to make sure you don't end up in one of those two inventory situations?
So, inventory management is a very complex situation. And
Mhm.
especially when it comes to footwear, the complexity just multiplies. And the reason is we need for every single model, we are not done with small, medium, large, XL. No, we need a lot of sizes and we need to fill half sizes as well. And the biggest part for us is because we are in the early stage of our brand, we have enough inventory to start with. We have enough inventory in our warehouse that we are good in another 1 or 2 year. And I think the biggest part for us is our relationship with our manufacturers. For each and every model, you have to make sure that the minimum quantity you are ordering with them, you have some type of arrangement that yes, for your next round you may not be ordering all the sizes, you may be filling up different sizes within that same model. So make sure that it's not, your relationship with your manufacturers are not transactional, it's more collaborative, because they are your partners in every inventory management situation. They will be helping you filling up those gaps when you will be missing out sizes, because there are common sizes like in women 7 to 8.5 are my common sizes, and I see that my inventory goes more in those sizes versus a little bit more bigger sizes. So that is the type of relationship you want to make sure you are having with your manufacturers. And then knowing your turnaround time, right? You need to make sure that you're ordering your MOQs on those
Mhm.
models ahead of time, because the last thing you want is you are a new brand, people are trusting you, but they are not able to find their size on your website. You don't
Man,
do that. So make sure you are planning ahead of the time. And nobody likes aging inventory, end of the day. So push it forward, do more activations, make sure if there are certain sizes you are not getting rid of, maybe you want to put additional discounts on them, right? Like simple strategies. I know these are, we all think we all know this strategy, but then as a founder, we are so much deeper into our 100 other problems that we forget that yes, these basic things still work. People love discounts. So anything you want to push it faster, just put those type of things so that you are having consistent inventory throughout end to end.
man, I love that advice. And I think you definitely are right in your assessment that consumers really need to, or I'm sorry, consumers, founders need to really have a thumb on not just what the inventory management process is for you internally, but there needs to be connectivity and forecasting or joint forecasting with your contract manufacturer and with your production partners. And as you think about, Pooja, all of the different vendors and production partners and distribution partners that you rely on to scale your brand, what would you say, or who would you say is the most important relationship for you over the next 12 to 18 months as you continue to scale the brand?
So at the beginning, of course, manufacturing relationship is very important. And then you are continue nurturing it. Right now,
Mhm.
we are at a stage where we are working on our phase 2 prototype. So it's more like a nurture at this point. We already built that relationship. So if you want me to focus next 12 to 14 months, distribution takes over, because now, number one, first you were growing, now you're scaling. So when the
Mhm.
scaling comes into picture, that's where you need to make sure that you have trustworthy distribution channels. So right now we have a couple of our wholesale partners, we have our sales associate. We want to make sure that all these people, we have a business continuity with them, but also our relationship with them is not transactional. We want to make sure that they are partner in every step of the way, and as our company grow, they can see their growth with us as well.
I love that. The partnership across the board with your vendors, with your production partners, with your customers. Before we get out of here, I want you to share what has been one of the most either humbling or touching pieces of customer feedback that you have received so far as a founder.
It's very interesting because I have probably attended over 100 in person events and I
Wow.
meet probably 200 new people every single week. And a lot of feedbacks come to my way. And for same model, same shoe, there are people who are vouching on my behalf that this is the awesome product. It's a life changing product, how their journey has completely changed. And on the other hand, I will see another potential customer who will be like, I wish the color would have been different. I wish this happened different. And if I have to sum up the whole feedback, I think colors is very interesting feedback I
Yeah.
get. Our colors are very eye catching, and a lot of time that helps us to bring the attention to people when we put the booth. Oh my god, that is the bubblegum color, that is the
Yeah.
candy color. That's how we hear the, oh, that's the
Yeah.
Ravens and Lakers color. Like, we hear
Yeah.
all that thing, but then there is a whole stream of customers who would appreciate us having more full black shoe, a beige shoe, like more neutral colors. So as
Hmm.
we are thinking through what is our next step, as we are working in our phase 2 prototypes, one thing I already talked to my manufacturers, these are the 2 or 3 neutral colors in both men and women we would definitely want to launch. People, I have masses like runners like bright colors to to begin with, but then there are always certain people who would enjoy more neutral colors.
That, you know what? I always ask at the end of the interview for as the show is called the Brand Blueprint. So I always try to make sure that my founders provide my listeners with one or two key things to think about or try out. And I didn't even get a chance to ask the question. You just gave the answer before I asked the question, because that was exactly the kind of advice that our founders need to hear. And again, I think you know this, Pooja, like the category broadly, fashion is a broad space, is really accountable and responsible for a lot of startup activity. I have and work with probably 5 different founders, including yourself, in the fashion space, 2 in the footwear space. I have another female founder who also came through a previous class of Seed Spot, and she focuses on luxury footwear for women with larger foot sizes, right? A segment of the footwear category that is also ignored, completely different opposite end of where you are, but in many ways, some of the same strategies. She looked at the space, realized that there was a specific consumer that wasn't being served well, and she created a product to come into that space. But I know, one of the challenges that almost every fashion founder has is that they're usually coming into a category with a bunch of big incumbent players that they have to compete against, who have huge advertising budgets and unlimited marketing budgets and all these great, in many cases, endorsements and spokespeople. Talk a little bit about, before we get out of here, what it's like competing in a category with that kind of incumbent pressure, and how you stay focused on your mission and your brand and not let that intimidate you.
Yeah, and that is kind of, I would say that's not a simple answer because, of course, I want billboards of Swift running, no doubt. I
Yep.
want my brand to show everywhere, right? But the reality of life is I don't have billions of dollars, which some of my other competitors have spent with just on the marketing. So if you look on the other aspect of it is, if I don't put my brand or my product in the center, but actually replace it with the customers, all my potential customers at the center, and see, can I satisfy their everyday running needs, can I satisfy their needs, and then can they be my word of mouth ambassadors that I don't have to seek all those billboards. So I picked the another strategy, and that goes with my customers. I heard from, I have a lot of my customers, or I would say ambassadors, who are high school coaches. That's another side of the world where we work very closely with young athletes and their parents. And one of the time I was talking to a parent and they told me, yes, we heard your story, but let me tell you, the running coach, he explained your story even better than what you just said. And I just loved it. If I got those ambassadors who can tell my story even
Yep.
better than who I am or what my brand is, that's all I need.
That's
I
the
think I
perfect.
can
Yep.
beat billboards any day.
Hey, that's the best demonstration of consumer trust in your brand. They trust your brand so much that they have embodied and can speak about it better than the founder. Right. And as I think about brands that I know and love across certain categories, that's not a very common thing to find, right? That a consumer is so passionate about a brand that they could tell you more about the brand than the founder can. I know a lot about the brands that I'm fans of, but I don't know of too many brands that I could go in and be like, hey, let me break some stuff down to you that the founder probably can't tell you about the brand, right? There are a couple of things out there that I dearly love that I probably could, and I probably need to tighten up on my fandom as well. But that being said, I so appreciate you coming on the show. And I want to, before we wrap up, I want you to leave the audience with a bit of a peek in the crystal ball of the Swift brand and tell us a little bit about what you think fans are going to see from Swift running in the future.
And our 2026-2027 roadmap includes a lot of cool stuff. Fall 2026, we are launching a full set of our Swift running apparels. Right now,
Oh,
we have some apparel items in on our website, but they are just the beginning. So we will have end-to-end running apparel line by end of this year. So
nice. I could get my Swift running shirt, my running shorts. I could be all the way because I like to match. I'm one of those guys that likes to go to the gym. And anytime I'm doing athletic, I can't wear Adidas with Nike. I can't wear Nike with Saucony. I need my own full brand experience. So I'm loving this idea of expanding into apparel.
absolutely. And number two would be our race day shoe, which will be a full carbon plated shoe. And
Wow.
we are in the testing phase right now for our prototypes, and that will be, again, an accessible race day shoe. So right now you have a full set of trainers, and what we are will be introducing is your race day shoe. So you don't have to see any other brand. You can actually get your full end-to-end journey with us.
Wow.
And not last but least, will be our trail running. We are still working on our prototype, so it will be coming. I cannot promise on the dates. It will be coming out soon. So we will be having, doesn't matter you are a road runner or trail runner, you will have Swift running pair in your closet.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. You heard it here first, fans. So you know to look for all three of those initiatives for Swift over the next year. I am going to excitedly be looking for both the apparel and the trail shoes. As I said earlier in the interview, I'm not a runner, but I actually prefer to wear trail shoes on my mountain biking expeditions. Trail shoes are very adept for mountain biking. They're lighter than mountain bike shoes. They tend to be, in my opinion, a little more stylish than mountain biking shoes. So I tend to lean to the trail versions of a lot of the shoes that I wear in my mountain bike. So I will be on the website purchasing a pair once you launch those, Pooja. And I definitely am looking forward to getting my own gear. I've been checking out the t-shirt and the logo that you've been spotting on the t-shirt on the interview all day. So I am looking forward to having my own t-shirt as well. That being said, look, I am so excited you took the time out to come on our show today and share all of this great information about your founder journey and about the brand. I'm looking forward to watching Swift really grow. And I know that there are a lot of people who are listening and watching and who also want to support the brand. So before we go, can you share your various social media platforms and webpage links so that our fans and our viewers can go out and support the brand?
Absolutely. So our website is swift-running.com, and we are also available on Amazon. We do have Amazon Prime option on our shoes as well. So if you're looking to go put them out overnight, so you will have that option. On our social media, we share a lot of our grassroots efforts, our event, our activations. Make sure you add Swift Running US. That handle goes on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. And we are
I
also
love it.
available on LinkedIn as well. So you can check out Swift Running on LinkedIn if you are just curious and want to connect with me.
And to that point, Pooja, do you have any upcoming events in the local geography? Pooja is located in the Baltimore, Maryland market, but does events across the region. Anything coming up that people should be aware of and try to attend?
Yes, there will be multiple events coming in the month of June. I think the immediate event is in 2 weeks, which is Baltimore Pride Festival. There will be a 5K at the Pride Festival. So we will
Yep.
be there for 2 days event. So feel free to check us out at the festival. But in addition to that, we try to keep our events page updated. So you
Yep.
can check out more events on our events page. Yeah.
Okay, you heard it here. Go check out events on Swift Running event page, as well as a upcoming event for those of you in the Baltimore market. Shout out to the Baltimore Pride Group. They have a 5K event coming up in a couple of weeks. Today is June 1st. This will probably publish or post right around that time frame. So if I were you, I would jump on your webpage immediately and make sure you get your information so you can attend to check out Swift Running at that event. In the meantime, we will be posting and sharing all of Pooja's information across our various platforms and channels. So if you go to www, you will be able to find her information there, alongside on our YouTube page and on our Apple Podcast page. So thanks again, Pooja, for coming on the show, for sharing such a great story about your brand. We're so excited to watch you grow and so excited to watch your overall movement, because that's what I feel like this is. This is a movement more than just a brand. You are increasing accessibility in a much needed space where I think people have for far too long either accepted and or just resided to the fact that they weren't going to be able to find a affordable running shoe that could really support their running lifestyle. So we are so glad to have Swift Running now out there in the mix and available to us as consumers. And remember, for you that watch and listen to the show, share, follow our content. If you don't do that, I think you might be a hater. You don't want to be a hater. So please make sure you follow and like our content. And also go out and check out Swift Running and Pooja. I am not lying. She is going to be a huge hit in the shoe industry over the next coming years. You want to be one of the first people to say, hey, I have my Swift Runners before anybody else did. So go check out our webpage now and get you a pair. All right. Thanks, guys, for attending. And we will see you the next time on the Brand Blueprint. Thanks for joining us on the Brand Blueprint journey. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay updated. Watch the full episodes on our YouTube channel for an in-depth experience. Don't forget to subscribe to our website at thebrandblueprint.biz for exclusive content and materials. We're everywhere you need us to be.